Leaders are readers of fiction. Have you ever heard someone say that reading fiction is just chewing gum for the mind? I have repeatedly from a very wise executive friend of mine, you know who you are, who still claims fiction's fun, but not necessarily useful. Actually, I don't even know if he would claim that fiction is fun, frankly. Honestly, it made me a little bit curious. Could something as seemingly non-practical as a fantasy novel, right? Worlds with dragons and politics across galaxies and magic and mystery and that sort of thing actually help us be better leaders in the real world. So today, I want to share with you a little bit more than an opinion, some actual compelling research showing why reading fiction, especially deeply immersive, character-rich kinds of stories, can actually make us more empathetic, more insightful, more socially intelligent leaders. And for fun, I'll end with 3 fiction books that I think every leader should consider picking up if you haven't dipped into fiction for a while. All right, this whole idea literally came to me when my family and I, thanks to my daughter's prompting, went to Brandon Sanderson's Dragonsteel conference last December. This is a huge gathering of writers and readers and fans of epic fantasy. And there was a statistic that Brandon shared from stage that by some measures, only about 10% of Americans are regularly reading for pleasure or recreational reading, even though we're surrounded by stories everywhere, right? And we scroll news feeds, we're binging these, shows, but book reading, interestingly, has dropped significantly. And that to me felt like a missed opportunity. Particularly because of the joy that it's brought to my life and the connection that it's brought to my family. And, just from digging into some of these stories, it's been really genuinely rewarding. But it made me wonder, is there more here than just the enjoyment? So I looked into it. And here is what the science says. First, psychologists and neuroscientists have found that reading fiction actually engages part of our brain responsible for understanding other people's thoughts and emotions, what researchers call theory of the mind. And so what happens when we read about a character's kind of inner life, their motivations, their struggles, what happens is our brain actually simulates those experiences as if we are living them. And that simulation exercises our social cognitive abilities, right? The same abilities that we use when we're relating to people in the real world. So researchers at Harvard call this like a gym for this theory of mind for us to exercise. There's also some research showing that when people read narrative fiction, they tend to score higher on empathy and perspective-taking measures, meaning they're better at understanding how someone else sees the world. And it makes sense, right? When you follow a character's journey, you sit with them through these decisions they're making, the joys, the failures, moral complexity, a lot of that comes into play, and you're repeatedly practicing stepping into another human's shoes. And that's exactly what leaders have to do when they're managing teams or resolving conflict or navigating ambiguity or inspiring other people. Beyond that, articles and outlets like Forbes have made the case that serious fiction doesn't just build empathy, but it expands emotional depth. It sharpens thinking, right? Decision-making under pressure, and it increases our ability to lead with more nuance, with more insight. So what might initially, from the outsiders, might consider a distraction or just a way to unwind, it turns out to be mental training for the human parts of leadership, the parts that data and spreadsheets and the strategy decks by themselves cannot quite touch for us. All right, now for the fun part. I, like many readers out there, took many years off from reading, actually from reading at all, and even more years off from reading fiction, but I got into it, and I want to share 3 fiction books that I think leaders should definitely consider getting into. The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. This is the book that got me back into reading fiction. It's epic fantasy, but there's also deep character study about leadership, honor, trust, moral complexity. You've got characters like Dalinar wrestling with what it means to lead under pressure, to make promises, to understand those very different from themselves. And interestingly, there are even rumors, some informal mentions in military leadership circles that this series is recommended reading for its leadership themes. I think that speaks to its depth and its impact. I love it. Highly recommended. The second book, check out Red Rising by Pierce Brown. Okay, science fiction novel that blends some strategy, some hierarchy, rebellion, resistance. The protagonist in this story infiltrates the elite class and has to constantly navigate these complex power structures, motivating allies, make some hard moral decisions. If you're a leader who cares about strategy and transformation, I think you're going to find a lot to think about here. Super entertaining and engaging read. Finally, book number 3, Name of the Wind by Patrick Rothfuss. Okay, this one is beautifully written. It's reflective, so it's not just a story about magic and myth, but more of personal growth, of resilience, of curiosity, of self-education. If you're an audiobook, I have heard that this is an incredible audiobook as well from a number of readers who didn't actually read it hard copy. But it reminds us that leaders are shaped by as much how they learn and how they adapt as by what they achieve. Any of these books for you could be an entry point into fiction, especially if it's been a while since you've picked up a novel. So here's my invitation to you. Don't wait for your next flight or your next binge watch break to scroll something real quick. Instead, consider picking up a story. A great way to end your day, by the way. Dive into a world where you feel with the characters, where your brain is activated with what's going on in that story. Think with them, wrestle with them. It's not just entertainment, it is a workout for your empathy and your perspective and your leadership lens. And now, what about you? What fiction books have you read that shifted how you think and how you lead or how you see people? What fiction, if any, would you recommend to leaders? Drop your recommendations down below. We would love to see them. Thanks for watching. I'm JB with Bolton Co., a leadership development company out in Colorado. Hope you enjoy your reading.